We're gonna get started here. All right. So today we're going to talk about quality and quality insurance and QC and quality control, I should say. Okay. So one of the most important things for any business is the quality of their products, right? And so companies are always concerned about what the perception is of their quality and what kind of product they're putting out there, right? So quality has four objectives that operations kind of look at to measure or figure out, okay, if their product is quality or not, right? There's cost, there's quality itself, right? Delivery and flexibility. Those are all considered characteristics, or kind of the things that we look at from operational standpoint that are important to the company, right? For as far as a product or service or that kind of thing, right? All right. So as you can tell by the slide, early on, the quality control, quality management was not a very sophisticated endeavor. It was basically looking at it and saying, okay, well, it looks like what it's supposed to look like, and so we'll call it good and then move on. Right. Later on down the line, we got into more statistical, application where we could apply statistics and scientific methods in which to assess the quality of a particular product, right? As far as defects per a certain amount of lot, or you know um, did the product meet the standards that it was looking for, how often and that kind of thing, right? So we apply statistics to quality control early on in the 40s and all the way up to the kind of the 60s, to where it became a very pivotal and important aspect of the whole operation paradigm, right? And so within the whole quality realm, right? It's not just about one person or one department being in charge of quality control, right? It's really the whole organization, because the quality of the product really starts from the very beginning, as far as like what's the plan, right? Where we sourcing our material from, right? And how the material is put together, right? In order to put the product together, and the functionality of it all, right? And so not one place or department within the organization handles that. That's handled by multiple uh, uh, departments or multiple areas or sections of a company. So you have to be really cognizant and understand that quality management is basically everybody's job, right? It's everybody's responsibility. It's not just one person that is in charge of quality, the quality management program, and then kind of, hey, you know I don't have to worry about it because I'm not in quality management or quality assurance or whatever the case may be, right? This is a good example here. You guys probably may or may not remember this. So there was a Comair flight that went down, that killed 49 people. But if you read the narrative here, basically, it sounds like it went down because there weren't enough people involved in the whole process of managing all the flights. And so, with that, there was some, shortcuts taken, some things done that, weren't necessarily up to par. And so it resulted in 49 people getting killed because the organization in itself did not follow the process and procedures that it had in place, right? And so you can see where, quality control, because really there's a quality control issue, because now you're not delivering the service like you should, right? It's more or less now one person sounded like they were, excuse me, it sounded like one person was pretty much doing it all, and that person, turned their attention away for 1 minute and ended up being contributing factor into 49 people getting killed. And so again, it's definitely a team effort. It's not about one person. It's about everyone pitching in and making sure that at every step of the process, of the production process, or the operations process, that the highest level of quality is maintained, right, or adhered to, all right? All right, so when we talk about quality, what are we talking about exactly, all right? We're talking about meeting or exceeding customer requirements now and in the future, okay? Um, so if you have a product, you want to make sure that it either meets expectations or exceeds the expectations. You don't want to perform below expectations, right? And so this is what quality is about. The funny thing about quality is that it's very subjective, right? What could be quality or considered quality for one person may not necessarily be quality for someone else. So only the customer can determine what quality is based on, of course, what they deem as quality to them, right? What they find value in. And so you have to keep that in your mind and to think to know that a quality is not something that, is a, set in stone uh type thing, right? It definitely is very subjective, and it depends on the person, and other factors of course go into that, as far as how much money they have and how much money they want to spend, what's the function of the product or the service, right? What's it going to do? Where is it? Who's going to be using it, right? And how you doing that? Um, who's going to be using it? And so that's an important aspect of it all. All right. Can you hear me, Debbie? Okay. So some dimensions of product quality, right? Let's look at the four, right? We have availability, we have quality of conformance, we have quality of design, and field service, right? So all those things go into quality. Part of them are, more, tangible, right? They have to actually do with the product. Others have to do with the experience, or the the customer experience, right? How the customer is going to feel about the product and the service that they received um, from getting the product, right? And so all those things go into the quality of the product. If you get a product and you're not necessarily satisfied with it, uh, it may be a number of things. It can be, that the product does what it said it's supposed to do, but it took, 5 weeks to get it. Okay. Or I got the product, but guess what? There's no customer service for, what we call aftermarket, kind of um, service, right? I already bought the product, but now I need service to the product, but there's nothing that's really available, or it's very poor. Okay. So think about, like, if you buy a phone or you buy a car, right? If you buy a car, the after purchase um, service, or after purchase aspect of it, is pretty good, right? You can go get your car fixed, take it in. There's a number of people that will, analyze your car and then fix it, or diagnose the car, I should say, fix it, send you on your way, right? This is actually where car dealerships make their money. Okay. So we look at the quality of design, right? We have to figure out, excuse me, we have to figure out, okay, um, to make sure that the 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 way it's put together, the way it's designed is is the best way we can do it. Okay. And we say the best way we can do it, it really depends on what we think the customer wants, right? The end user. So if I know what the end user wants, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I put something together that, meets the specifications um, in of what the user wants, right? Or what they think they want. All right. So, the design, of course, is something that there's two parts of the design, right? Design itself, functionality, right, is what we're looking at, but then we're also looking at aesthetics, right? Yes, it does what it's supposed to do, but it's ugly. Okay, it's not really nice to look at. It doesn't have any appeal to it, right? Or it looks good, but it doesn't function like it's supposed to. So it's just pretty, but it really doesn't serve any purpose except for that I like to look at it. Okay. So you don't want that. You kind of want both aspects in your product, good or service, right? Um, you know, Again, you're really trying to figure out what the customer is wishing for, right? So it's kind of a, kind of a, trying to make a prediction or assumptions about the customer. And we're pretty good, at it. Most organizations are pretty good at, hey, we're going to design it this way. We think it'll have mass appeal. We'll make it these particular colors. But there's all that research is out there as to what people like, what people don't like. And then another factor is that what's going on in society, what's culturally, right? How are people feeling? So what's going on in the mainstream, in the people that are, the cultural phenomenons, right? So I take that in consideration also, and understanding that those things change. So you have to, think about the fashion industry, even the car industry, and why is it that we design new models every year? Okay, because people want to change. People want to, feel that, that they want to see something new, right? But they also want to have the thing that everyone else has, and so that's an important aspect of the design, right? But you want it to be a quality as far as the design itself. Excuse me. The quality of conformance, right? And so, really, what we're saying is, hey, does this product, good, or service meet the specifications as far as like what it's supposed to do, right? And I mentioned it, previously, right? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? That's it. If it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then what's the point? So you have to figure out, okay, um, I can make something, right? It could be cheap or inexpensive, but at the same time, it does what it's supposed to do, right? Take, for instance, Walmart or, CVS or some of these other places where you kind of go get convenience items, right? And there's a reason why there's a multitude of the same product made by different people, because each one could have a different standard of quality, right? Even when it comes to the conformance, where it could be, hey, this conforms or performs at a certain level, right? This one does okay, and this one doesn't does it does it, but it doesn't last long, right? It kind of comes in and it goes really quick, right? Of course, those are all aligned with price points, right? If you want the quality, conformance that is good and high, you're probably gonna pay a little bit more. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case for everything, right? Um, Even inexpensive things can conform at a high level, right? As long as it does what it's supposed to do, then there's no problem, right? And that's really the fight that you have to really look at, right? It does what it's supposed to do. It may be, inexpensive to make. We may not be using the highest quality of material, but that's okay because excuse me. It's okay because as long as it does what it's supposed to do, then most folks are okay as long as they didn't overpay for it. Okay. Yes, I'm going to pay for conformance. I'm going to pay for high quality conformance, but at the same time, if I'm getting a product or good or service that's not built to a high conformance level or status or standard, but it does what it's supposed to do, I don't expect to pay a whole bunch of money for it. All right. And so again, cheap products can have high conformance, right? So when we talk about that, we talk about the abilities. Okay, again, availability, reliability, and maintainability. And again, I just mentioned those uh, just previously. All right, how quickly can I get it? All right, how quickly can I get it, and how long or eh, how long will the need exist? All right. How long will customers actually want to keep getting this product, good, or service? Right. Because some things kind of lose their availability. All right. It's no longer useful to me. All right. So something like, baby carriage or something that's seasonal or whatever the case may be. I don't necessarily need a baby carriage or a stroller, right, after a certain period of time. So that availability starts to dwindle for the company for certain demographics. But fortunately, right, babies are being born every day, so there's always going to be a need for baby strollers and cribs and that kind of thing. Right. So, but still, the availability speaks to how, how long is this particular thing going to be useful to the customer, right? And if it keeps being useful to the customer, then you know what, I'll be able to, continue on in my business and keep making it and trying to figure out, okay, how, what my production metrics or my production standards are, right? Reliability, of course, is pretty self-explanatory, right? Can I trust it? Can I trust it when I need it, right? Not just when it's sitting on the shelf, but when I need it, can I trust it to perform the way it's supposed to perform? And also, it's always helpful if this is possible to have a timeline of expiration date, right, on any product, right? So you'll find it's mostly, not mostly, but it's a good example, food items. All right. So I buy a particular food and I know those are perishable, maybe bananas, fruits, whatever. All food items are perishable at some point unless you freeze them. And even then, it's gonna give. It's not gonna last forever, right? Um, but I need to know that the product, right, or the service, has a period of time to where it's sufficient enough for me to buy it, to know that, hey, this is gonna last me a while, right? And it's gonna last me until it decides to give out or it breaks. Computers, for example, after a while, the storage gets full. You have to add clean the storage and get a new, or and have a new, a clean up computer, or you go out and you buy a new computer, right? That's just the way it is, right? And so what we have is the mean time before failure, right? MTBF, right? And that really speaks to how long do we think that this product is going to be reliable for, all right? And every usually most things have some kind of MTBF, right? Computers, again, I think it's 4 or 5 years. You can expect to go have to buy a new computer, or at least clean up your computer if you don't want to get a new one. A car, depending again how will you maintain it, could be 10 years, could be 15. Cars last forever. It's just a matter of the maintenance and how much you use it and that kind of thing, right? So having a sense of, you know, how reliable this product or service is, and again, what I mean by that is that you have a product that will work um, when you need it to work. Okay, so that's an important, and also you have an idea of how long it's supposed to work for. So you again have an idea as to, okay, when will I need to get a new one or just continue using this particular product. So that's reliability. Maintainability, right? Basically, how do I get the product again fixed, or how do I keep it up in the face of it failing? Okay, and as I said before, you have a computer's gonna last 5 years. You either have to buy a new one or you have to get it, kind of cleaned off, right? The storage or the memory cleaned out and get rid of the stuff that you probably don't use, or all the stuff you downloaded over the past 5 years that really don't need and you haven't even looked at in years, right? And so the maintainability, again, depending on what kind of, if you have a PC or a Mac, with a PC, you can always upgrade the memory. You can change it out and that kind of thing. With a Mac or Apple product, you can't do that. You pretty much have to clean it out, or you have to buy a new computer, okay? Because you can't upgrade the memory in any way, right? Or the screen might be too, or actually the software may not be able to keep up with the new, updates that are available, right? The operating system may not, necessarily be up to par, or efficient, right? And so this is why we have to, keep updating our operating systems on computers, right? Let's take cars for example, right? When the car breaks, you take it to the mechanic, right? But we're curious as to how long does it take to fix it? Okay, how long does it take to fix it? And with most things, it doesn't take too long, right? But if you want it to, be fixed faster, then great. But you also have to consider from the consumer standpoint, do I need something that is going to always require needing to be fixed? Or do I want to buy a product, good or service that, if I send it away to get fixed, or is there, a reasonable amount of time that I can do without the product to get it fixed, right? And still complete what I need to do. And so the mean time to repair is an important feature because, or important aspect, I should say, because people will consider that it, when they're purchasing, like, okay, if this thing breaks, what do I need to do, right? How long is it going to take to fix it? How much is it going to cost to fix it, right? Again, going back to your vehicle, if your car breaks, you take it to the, dealership or mechanic, they'll give you an idea of how long it will take to fix. And aside from how much work the mechanic has or the cost and all that stuff, how long it takes to fix is just based on, hey, this is the product, this is the problem, right? And the problem that the car has will determine the mean time to repair. But they know pretty much what how much time each particular part of the car or each particular part of the product will take to fix, right? So it's not necessarily rocket science per se. It's something that you have an idea about, and most organizations have an idea, and they put it out there, right? And you can use it as a selling point, right? Last forever, or maybe we guarantee. That's where the kind of where guarantees come from, where we say, look, this is gonna do what it's supposed to do. It's gonna last forever, right? Or it's going, and if it breaks, it can be fixed, right? Or you get a new one, right? That's kind of what a guarantee is, right? All right. So looking down at some of the availability, right? The formulas, right? Uptime divided by uptime plus downtime, MTBF divided by MTBF plus MTTR, right? All those are just kind of, not kind of, they are analyzing or calculating the amount of time that a particular product, good, or service is going to be available, right? Based on what's going on with it. Okay. If it's down, okay, how long is it going to take, or how long, when is it going to be available and for how long, right? And so that's how they calculate those particular things, right? So as an example here, okay, piece of metal equipment, medical testing equipment is usually used for 3 hours. Let me see what it says here. Yeah, 3 hours and requires 1 hour of maintenance. Calculate the machine's availability, right? So if you have your MTBF down here, your MTTR, and you just use the formula availability, 3 divided by 2 plus 1.75. So the machine's average availability is 75%. So 75% of the time, this particular, equipment will be available for use. Okay, it will be available for use. 75% of the time, you can count on this machine doing what it needs to do, right? Being available based on the amount of time that you need to use it and the amount of time that it needs for maintenance. All right. So 75% is what you got, which is not bad. Okay. Yep, there's the formula. Boom. All right. So the next thing is field service. Excuse me, let's go back here. So field service, right? Again, like I said before, warranties, right? And repair replacement of product after it's been sold. Good example of this is, companies that offer home insurance or home warranties, right? Those things are very useful for homeowners because if something breaks, you just call them up, they'll come fix it. Of course, there's a monthly premium, and then there's a service fee that goes with every time they have to come out. But it's worth it if you have a AC unit that breaks, or you have some kind of one of your systems inside your home fails. Then all you have to do is call them up and they'll replace it, or they'll fix it or replace it. And things like that normally cost $2, $3, $4, $5,000, depending on what the problem is. But having the ability to have some service uh, after the purchase is really what we're valuing here. Okay, so what we're looking at as far as field service, we want field service that's prompt. Okay, we want field service that's very reactive. Okay, something happens, then boom, I can call you up, and it's not going to take me or take you 5 days to get to me, or it's not going to be a week. Sometimes it's like that, right? Because they only have so many people that they can employ, that they can get out there to help as far as field service, right? But um, for instance, the cable company, I think, has got it pretty down, pretty to science, pretty much to science. If they if something goes wrong with your cable, if you can't call and a service person has to come out and fix it, they're pretty quick. Normally a day, if that, or two, right? Because there's always somebody roaming around the general vicinity installing new cable and that kind of thing, right? And so they can kind of squeeze those service calls in for those folks, right? But you want your field service to be prompt, right? You don't want people waiting around, languishing, and just doing without that particular service. It may be something extremely important that we need, like the internet, that we really, nowadays you really can't function without the internet. You need the internet for your day-to-day life and activities, right? And so it's important that we react in a prompt manner in addressing whatever issues the customer has. Okay, competence, right? Prompt is one thing, but being prompt and then getting to a particular location and not be able to solve the problem, that's also not great. Okay, that's also an issue. So competence is key, right? Because I want you to be able to come in and be able to solve my problems, because that's what your job is. You're the expert, right? I'm not the expert. If I knew what to do, I wouldn't call you. I'd fix it myself. Because I don't know, and you have the competency as it relates to this particular product or service, then I'm relying on you to deliver that competency when you come to, analyze and diagnose whatever issue I have, right? And so competency is an important aspect, because the competency a lot of times speaks to the training that the field service people are getting, right? And so if you get someone who doesn't seem as competent, maybe they're new, okay, and don't necessarily have exposure to the various scenarios that could possibly have taken place, but still, you're exposed to some of the common, you know, uh, um, issues and problems, right? And so, as long as you're competent in the average problem, the average issues, you should be fine, because again, they're average for a reason, because those are the problems that occur the most, those are problems that occur most frequently. And so we have, pretty much, system that will get in, get out, and fix those problems. Then you have your unique issues that, may require a little more expertise. But again, the competence level of the field service is extremely important, if not even more important than the promptness, because if you get there, right, if you get there late, okay, that's fine, but at the same time, if you get there late, I need you to fix it right away, right? Make up for that lateness. Now, if you get there late and you're competent, the customer tends to be okay. Okay, the customer will accept that the fact that you're late, you're probably working on another job, had to travel from one place to the next, so it's understandable, right? As long as the amount of time that you're late isn't crazy, all right, 2 3 4 hours, that's really out of pocket, right? 30 minutes, an hour, maybe, I can accept that, but I'm expecting someone to come in and be extremely competent and fix my problem and be in and out the door. Uh, of course, depending on what the problem is, right? The problem may be a little more complicated than just 10 minutes. But as long as you get in there and you're competent, and you fix what I need you to fix, then I'm okay. Okay. The last dimension is integrity, right? And integrity is in here because you want somebody, or you want the this field service, you want the aftermarket service to be honest, right? You want them to treat you fairly and to say, hey, look, a perfect example is if you take your car in, right, and the car just vibrating all over the place or doing something really funky, and you go into the car dealership, they diagnose it, and then all it is there's a screw loose, okay, but instead of just telling you it's a screw loose and they tighten the screw and then you can leave, they'll charge you for however much they think they need to charge you. They're not honest with you. They say, oh, the hose is loose, the hose is worn out. Oh, something's wrong with the transmission. the gears are gone, the sprockets are gone. You need somebody that's going to be honest, because you don't know what you're looking at. You don't really know the inner workings of the particular product, good, or service. So you're relying on them to tell you what's wrong with it. And so they have to be honest and not try to, swindle you or try to, teach you because they want to make more money. And so this is an important aspect, because you'll find this occurs a lot. It's, the car industry, mechanics are very notorious for, practicing, you know, this way, right? In that they'll, is a gender stereotype. If a woman brings in a vehicle to get repaired, sometimes that mechanic may try to take advantage of her because they may think that she doesn't know anything about vehicles, not enough at least to question them about what they think is wrong, right? And so you have to be very cognizant of that and not, let people take advantage of you. But again, you're in a position where you're relying on someone else, so you need them to be honest, right? And across, for the most part, most places are pretty straightforward and honest, because they give you itemized list of, okay, this is what we did, this is how much it costs, this is what we did, this, kind of run down the list. And then God forbid, you're someone who's familiar with cars or the product, you just don't have the tools or the time to fix it, right? And then they try to, do some underhanded or shady stuff, then you catch them, right? That doesn't look good for the company, right? This is where lawsuits occur. This is where, the company, not only, loses money, but they take a hit to their reputation, right? And so you don't want that to be the case, okay? And so again, when we talk about field service, we want to be prompt, we want to be competent, and we want it to have integrity or be honest about what the issue is, and not try to, undersell us or oversell us. Okay. All right. So different types of quality, right? We just talked about, those things, right? So quality design, conformance, availability, and then field service, right? But there's quality of market research, quality of concept, maintainability, just to support all these things on the right hand side here. They all feed into these particular aspects of quality, right? And at the end of the day, they all, help the customer to be satisfied and determine how, how well, or if the product or the service is ready, for use or ready to be, put into service. Okay. uh, and they'll determine, like, okay, what level. Sometimes, again, going back to my car analogy, you'll have a car, and you'll buy it, but it has some issues with it, right? Does it still work? Sure. When I buy it, am I satisfied? Yes, I'm happy. I bought the car. I know it has issues, right? The fitness for use may not be 100%, maybe 60%, 70%, but I know that. As long as I know that, then it's okay. Because again, quality is subjective, right? It's in the the eye of the beholder. And so that person who's buying that car, if it's me or whoever, um, if I'm going to be using it for, day-to-day driving, and it having, maybe a very minimal oil leak, or it doesn't, the paint's not great, or whatever the case may be, if I'm okay with that, that's no big deal. All right. Um, and so, again, it depends on what the customer is willing to deal with, and what the customer is going to be using the particular product or service for. Especially in the case of a car, I may be buying a car to give to my one of my kids, right? And so, do I necessarily want something that is of the highest quality? No, I want it to work. All right, I definitely want it to work, because I don't want my kids or my wife or my husband, whoever, stranded on the street, right, in a car that breaks down, right? But it may not necessarily have all the aesthetic appeal, or there may be some issues that make are present, but again, they're not present. They're not to the point where it's affecting the functionality of whatever product is, and I find value in what it's doing for me, right? What its role and its purpose, and so it's not a big deal. All right. All right. So let's talk about some service quality. Okay. And so service quality definitely different from customer service as far as like product quality. Okay. All right. So service quality definitely speaks to you know a feeling or the way someone is treated. Okay. And so nowadays it's not necessarily about the product anymore, right? The focus is always on the product. The focus is on the experience and the experience of the service that I receive, the quality of the service. And so you want to be able to provide the customer with a very high you know high quality of service. Okay. And so some of the things that go into providing high quality service, right? It's the appearance. Okay. It's the reliability we talked about, as far as, hey, we're going to provide service for you. Again, going back to the car, like Kia, 5 years or 100,000 miles, right? Okay, appreciate it, right? That's what we want, right? BMW is the same thing. They do 4 years and 50,000 or something like that, right? um Responsiveness, right? People are prompt and they're helpful. Again, we want people to be, as we talked about in the dimensions, right? We want them to be prompt. Okay. There's responsiveness. We want them to be reactive, right? In the sense of they're reacting to our problem, right? Not reactive as an organization. We don't want reactive. We don't want organizations to be reactive. We want organizations to be proactive as much as they can, right? But we also want them to be responsive to our issues, right? Assurance, right? Having the knowledge and the understanding, again, goes back to competency, right? But that is also attached with courtesy when you're talking about service, right? Because I don't necessarily have to be nice to a car, right? But I have to be courteous and respectful to a person, right? To the owner of the car. Or let's say someone comes in and they're getting a massage, or they're getting their nails done, or they're getting their haircut, or whatever it is, right? If it's a service, or you're checking into a hotel and there's someone receptionist there checking you in, or there's a concierge, all those things are all service related, right? And so you want to have the best quality when it comes to that. When you think about service quality, and I've mentioned in other classes before, when I think about like places like In and Out, Chick-fil-A, right? Those places are known to have very uh, high quality of service. Okay, the food is not expensive, right? It tastes good, right? The product is good, but it's the service that I get, the way they make me feel, the fact that they pay attention to my order, and it rarely, if ever, is incorrect. It's always right. They always address me a certain way. I don't wait long, aside from the fact that there's a large volume of people that are trying to purchase the product, right? But even then, they move very quickly, right? They move very fast. The system is very efficient. And so, when people want to, enjoy a hamburger, or, or something, some fast food, um, it's very much, not just about the food that they want, but they also think about, oh, I'm gonna go and get quality service from Chick-fil-A, from In and Out, from Burger King. But the whole point is that In and Out and Chick-fil-A are kind of known for being, service focused, where the customer, gets treated a certain way. They don't argue with you about incorrect orders, or if you want something extra, it's no problem. If you have to pay for it, great. If not, then they don't have any problems giving it to you. And in most cases, they'll just give it to you because they know you want it, right? And so that aspect, right, um, garners a lot of loyalty, right? Garners a lot of brand loyalty from the consumer, because the consumer knows Chick-fil-A and In and Out, they care about me, right? They care about how I feel, to a certain degree, of course, right? But they are concerned because they want me to come back. All right. And the food may be enough for me to come back, but if I get treated poorly, I probably won't come back no matter how good the food is. Right. So the food could be mediocre, but the service was outstanding. I'll come back. If the food was outstanding, but the service was mediocre, I probably won't go back because I don't want to deal with that. If I'm paying you, if I'm paying an organization or a company for a product, I just don't expect the product. I expect the service that's associated with the product to also be of the highest quality. And so you have to keep that in mind when you're talking about service quality. Okay. All right. So let's talk about, oh, all right, the quality cycle. Okay. So really what it boils down to, as I said before, it starts with the customer quality needs. Okay. So what is the customer wanting when it comes to quality? Okay. And so there's different spectrums for this because people have different are in different financial, status. So customers again, will drive the quality level, right? And so and there's quality for every financial level, every economic level you can think of. Okay, so you get your customer their needs, right, and then that goes into marketing, right, and then marketing tries to figure out, okay, what does that mean? Okay, what does that mean? Okay, and so what they do is they actually work hand in hand with the customer via surveys, via questionnaires, via, hey, let me just ask you what you think, right? They garner the customer's input and try to design the product in a way, right, that um, that is going to meet the customer's needs. Because at the end of the day, we need to sell the product to this person, the customer, right? And so if the customer says, I want, black and red at the top, yellow in the front, green in the back, guess what? This is what we're going to design, okay? Nobody's saying that it's pretty. Nobody's saying that it's the best looking thing, but it's what the customer wants, right? And so you can make a product, right? But you have to keep the customer in mind. You just can't make a product because you like it, right? Because it looks cute. Unless you're making it for yourself and you don't plan on selling it or going into business, right? If you're making it for yourself, it's not a big deal. It's like making, I don't know, eggs or something, right? Oh, you go to a restaurant, the restaurant's gonna make the eggs the way you want, right? Or they have a certain way of making the eggs and it has mass appeal, right? But you could be at home, you make your eggs any way you want. Doesn't matter because you're not selling it. It's just for your personal consumption. No big deal. But if it's something that's going to be sold, then I need to know what the customers like. Some people like sunny side up. Some people like scrambled. Some people like omelets. So you have to have different, sections or different options in which the customer can feel like their quality needs are being met. Right. So you go to marketing. From marketing goes to engineering. Engineering will just say, okay, well, I see you design concept. Let's put some actual meat on the bones now, right? Let's actually try to build this thing. Okay, let's see. Let's build a prototype and see what it can do, right? I may design something to, fly, you know, go backwards, go forward, do 360s, and do other things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I can actually make it happen, right? Because a lot of designs out there for a lot of things, right? There's a design for a time machine, right? Can we actually build that? No, right? We can't build that just yet, okay? And so marketing, has spoken to the customer. Customers like, hey, I want a time machine. Okay, great. What you want to look like? Want to look like this, and this, and I'd like it for it to do this, and I like it for it to do that. And okay, no problem. Marketing takes it. They, talk to the customer, and then they go to engineering, and the engineering tries to put it together. And engineering will tell you, hey, we can do this or we can't do this, right? And that's the beauty of engineering, because once it gets to engineering, they will be able to ascertain whether or not this is a feasible, thing that they can do. If they can't do it, they'll do it at the best that they can to excuse me, to the customer's needs, right? To the specific design and the specifications that were, given to them, right? And then once they get kind of the idea of like, okay, this is what the mechanics behind it is, then they can design a prototype. That prototype then goes to operations where we do mass production of it, okay? Where we scale it, and then in scaling it, we build it at a large volume, but we also make sure that it meets the requirements as set forth by the customer. Okay, this is where quality control comes in, right? Where we make sure that it does what it's supposed to do, it looks the way it's supposed to look, all right? It sounds the way it's supposed to sound, all right? um, there aren't any defects. Of course, there's always room for error. There's a margin of error, right, involved, but for the most part, um, there's a very high level of quality control that goes into manufacturing and production, and product come out working the way it's supposed to. But once you get here to operations and quality control, once it gets past here, boom, the product ends up at the customer, and the customer, right? So you can think of this even as a feedback loop. The customer gets the product, and if it's not a product necessarily that the customer directly asks for, then they'll buy it, and then they'll say, oh, okay, cool, I like it, and maybe there's some few things that they want to tweak, right? And so this is where, Jimmy, the need for, or the new models come in, because those are usually things that people have asked for. They say, hey, you know what, I love the 2021, right, but I wish it had this. Okay, and I wish it did that, or that kind of thing. And then next year or 2 years down the road, like, hey, customer, we put in this, and this as you requested. Okay, check it out. All right, and the customer will go back again, get the product. So the product will be sent to the customer. Customer will use it, and then the customer will again forecast their needs to marketing, and it'll just go back, back to the way it was, right? Another loop, another iteration. And so this is important because this is the way the quality control kind of happens, right? And that we have the needs, we push it to marketing to really get an idea of what the customer is looking for. Engineering, can we do it, right? And yes, we can. Operations says, okay, I can build it. I can build a whole bunch of them, and then quality control just checks to make sure that, hey, did we meet the mark? Okay, and then boom, we did all that, goes to customer, customer's happy, good to go. Customer's not happy, all right, we need to go back to the drawing board and fix a few things. Customer was happy with 70% of it, or 80% of it, or whatever the case uh, may be, okay? So here we have a quality cycle in the mass transit system. And for those of you that aren't familiar with mass transit, I grew up in New York, and so I'm very familiar with mass transit, with the trains and the buses. Here in San Diego, it's okay. It's not as robust as in other, cities and states, but it's okay. All right, it's decent. At least we have one. All right, but so really the need, right, is here. This is your customer, the rider's need, the customer here. Here, county planning, regional planning, state transportation, you can consider that kind of the marketing area, or they're the ones that, plan out, city planning basically, and try to figure, okay, what's the infrastructure that we are trying to get for the city, right? For example, if you, and some of you might not be familiar with this, but um, there's a new trolley being built that's going from the trolley station all the way to directly into La Jolla to UCSD. Oh yeah, UCSD. And so that wasn't there before. And so, and that's years in the making, like a decade in the making, and they've been talking about this, right? That all stemmed from the fact that the students, the writers, put in the need because they're like, hey, we have no way to get from UCSD, the La Jolla area, down to downtown. Okay, because there's no tri station, there's no means of transportation, right? There's no mass transit. So how do we get down there, right? If you don't have a car, you're kind of stuck. If you don't, find the bus system, which is not, very sparse in that particular area, because most people that live in that area are somewhat affluent, and they have money, and they don't necessarily think about mass transportation, right? But the students, right, or the people that are concerned about, not driving their cars and, needing some kind of transportation system, right? They have a need, and they posted their need, but they also wanted a quality product. They didn't want, something that was, you know, um, poorly made. And you can't have a poorly made transit system, okay, because that will result in deaths. Okay, people will die, especially in the overhead, trolley system like we have going up in La Jolla. We need it to be quality, but the riders needs, get, posted with the planning department, city planning, right? And then they figure out, hey, okay, like, how do we, set up, not only the train or the bus or whatever the case may be, right? But what's the schedule going to look like? Okay, what's the schedule going to look like? How often are we going to run the buses in New York? A bus runs for a particular route every, 5 to 7 minutes. That particular stop will have a bus coming every 5 to 7 minutes, so you're not waiting long. The trains, same thing, 5 to 7 minutes, maybe 10, depending on what's going on, right? And how busy things are and that kind of thing, right? So pretty quick. Here in San Diego, you could literally wait 30 minutes to an hour for the bus. So you have to plan ahead. You have to more or less look at the schedule and see, okay, if I leave at this time, you know, I'll catch the bus at this time. I'll catch, the trolley at this time. And so that works, but I don't need to leave at this time, because if I leave at this time, it's too early or it's too late. So I need a time between. So trying to figure out the times that are conducive to people's schedule is very difficult. That's why it's kind of, where they go, maybe every half hour there's a bus coming, right? Or a trolley coming or something to that effect, right? And so it's just the best solution that they come up with, right? So the planning scheduler comes up with that. They figure out the routes, right? The budgets and the schedules. Again, the budgets, we're talking about the maintenance of the buses, right? Or the trolley. We're talking about the salaries of the bus riders. I mean, the bus drivers, excuse me, right? The bus drivers, okay? And how, setting up their work schedule and that kind of thing, right? Um, how are we going to figure out the facilities, right? Where do the buses go when they're done? Right? Where do the bus drivers take the buses? Do they take them, to a centralized location? Do they take them home? Right? Those kind of questions, right? So you have to figure that out, right? Again, then you have to evaluate, inspect, audit. There's a lot of things that go into the system. You have to make sure that the bus drivers are, one, you know, abiding by the speed limit. Two, they don't overgo over capacity. Three, they are managing, the money that they get, right? So if you don't have a pass or anything, the money you have to pay the bus driver via the, by the token or whatever it is, however they take their funds, right? So that's another thing. So that person has money on their hand. The safety of the bus driver, right? What is this bus driver's responsibilities per se? As a bus driver, am I responsible for the security of everyone on the bus? Those are all questions that the operations office and, and the people that are in the planning, uh, city planning, those are all things they think about, when it comes to mass transit systems, right? Um, and then, we have the public, right? And so, what's the public think, right? For those of us that aren't necessarily using the mass transit, how is that going to impact us? How the trolley going to impact, you know, um, San Diegans that don't necessarily use the trolley, right? How's that going to, as far as price, how's that going to affect my taxes? How's that going to affect my commute, right? How's that going to affect my land and kind of the surrounding areas and how's that going to impact me, right? And so all those things go into the pot and kind of get analyzed or at least looked at. And then you go back to the rider's needs, all right? Because although the public is important, not everyone in the public necessarily needs the asset or needs the resource, right? But we go back to the rider who definitely needs that particular, transit system to help them get about their day, right? But all in all, in each step, within the operations office, you're trying to make sure that you maintain the quality, right? You maintain the quality of the product, even though the product, a lot of times, if it comes, when we're talking about managed transit as an example that's given here, um, it's not, you know, it's not sexy. It's not anything, necessarily, glamorous. But at the same time, I would like the train to be clean. I like the train or bus or whatever mode it is, not to be safe or to be safe, not to be. I want it to be safe. I want it to not have, any obstacles or challenges or any, um, I don't want the environment to be hostile in any way, right? And of course, when it comes to mass transit, sometimes you'll find homeless people on the mass transit, right? Because they're riding up and down all day for a certain amount of money because they don't have a lot of money. So they may decide, hey, I got $1 or $2, whatever. I'm going to take the train or the bus. And I'm going to go down to this area and maybe I'll ride it all day because it's warm and I'm safe here. Nobody's going to mess with me. That kind of thing, right? And so you want the quality of the train or trolley or bus to be as high as you can. And again, you want to keep it clean inside and out. You want to keep it secure and safe. You want to maintain it as best as you can. And then when it goes down, you need to get it in and get it out, right? Because again, that's an asset that is not in use. Once it's down, how long is it going to take for it to get back up? Okay. All right. So when we talk about quality improvement through the quality cycle, right, we have to define the attributes on the basis of the customer needs. Again, you can see the theme is customer needs, right? Everything is based on what is the customer need, right? What is the end user really trying to get to, right? You have to measure. Decide how you're gonna measure each thing. Okay. How am I gonna, figure out, the cleanliness, right? What's the level of that, right? Or security. How am I gonna measure those things? Okay. As far as when it comes to the quality of those things, right? How much money am I gonna put into it, right? You want to set those standards, right? And then you want to establish, tests or evaluations to make sure that those standards are being met. Okay. Super important because you need to have some kind of criteria to hold people to, right? If you don't have anything where you can hold someone accountable, things will go by the wayside. And so once I set the quality standards, I need to have a way in which to evaluate them. Again, think about our classroom, right? Hey, this is, the material. I'm trying to deliver it the best I can, okay? And so when I evaluate you, right, I want to see how well I did, but at the same time, you want to, kind of be able to say, hey, you know what, the instruction wasn't exactly up to par, or Dr. K's, gave us a little bit, but he didn't really give us that much, or when he did, teach or had lecture, they were really great lectures, kept me engaged and that kind of thing. So I feel happy about the quality that I got from my education, right? And so, overall, we always are looking for, a way in which to evaluate that particular product, right? And try to meet the standards, okay? And so this is an important aspect as far as quality improvement, right? Because this is the way we make things better, right? We have to evaluate. There has to always be an evaluation function uh, in whatever process you have, because you just can't have a process and then just have it what it is, have it as it is, excuse me, and then not go back and test it and see, is it doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? Is it measuring the things that I needed to measure, or is it meeting the standards like I wanted to? Once you set up the test, you find incorrect causes of poor quality, right? So you basically you tested it, you evaluated it, and you see, hey, this is not really up to the standards we're looking for. How can we fix it? Okay, let's make some changes, right? Okay, we're going to, wipe down the bus every hour. Hey, bus driver, after 1 hour, you'll stop at it, you'll go to a certain stop, or you'll stop prior to your next stop. You'll wipe the bus down with, I don't know, Lysol or something, right? Keep it clean. You'll sweep it, right? That kind of thing. You'll keep it, the cleanliness level to a certain standard. Or hey, we need you to be on time. All right. So how do you avoid that? Well, you probably want to make sure that one, you avoid any traffic, that heavy traffic. But again, it's hard to control that, right? As a bus driver, as someone who's, really, kind of just um, had to surrender to the conditions around them. It's not my fault there's an accident. Now, the buses, just like ambulance and policemen, that kind of thing, probably have some special considerations, right? They can probably circumvent all the things that we have to kind of stick around for. So if there's an accident, and there's a bus, they're probably gonna let the bus go. Like, okay, hey, go around, that kind of thing. And so that can keep the bus driver on time, right? Which makes sure that they meet the quality standard of promptness, right? Yes, we are on time. We're regular on time. If we're not on time, we might be a minute or two late, but we are within, the plus minus five of when we're supposed to be there, right? So whatever the standard is, whatever the deviation is, they'll figure that out, right? And then you continue to make improvements, right? You don't want to just stop at, hey, I'm at a level where we're content and then we're not going to try to make it better, right? This is where companies fail, right? If you sit on your laurels and you think, hey, it's working, if it's broke, why fix it? It's not about it, if it's not, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's not about that. It's about, hey, how can I make this better? How can I make this a better experience? How can I make this, to the point where people, are making it the standard for everything else? Okay, because the quality is so good, right? And it doesn't have to be expensive. It's just that we have great quality. Okay. Pocoyoke, excuse me, right? Of course, developed by Toyota, right? And Toyota, for those guys that don't know, is very big on quality control. They're very big on, making sure of what they call continuous improvement, right? Kaizen is a term that they embrace, and it's a way of doing business. It's a way of life, really, for Toyota. And I know because I used to work for Toyota, and so this was something that was like beat into our heads because Toyota is about quality, right? Toyota is not about necessarily aesthetics in the car looking like a Maserati. Toyota's like, hey, we're gonna make a nice car, but guess what? It's gonna be of the highest quality. It's gonna do what it's supposed to do. It's gonna meet and exceed your expectations. It's gonna last forever, right? Which we see, yeah. It's gonna be cost efficient, fuel efficient, right? And also it's gonna look nice, right? It's not gonna knock your socks off, but it might knock your shoes off. Okay. It's gonna look good. Right. It's gonna look good. Right. And so Toyota is very much, in the kind of the lane of, hey, uh, we want to try to do everything we can, um, to make sure that if there are mistakes, we can see them right away. Okay. Or we don't make any mistakes. Okay. And so the way they kind of set up certain things, right? The way they set up the manufacturing plant, the way they set up the QC, and where they set up the QC, right? And as I said earlier, the QC process starts from the design. It starts from way, way back. It doesn't start like at the time of production. It starts before then, right? The materials, who's designing it, what they're trying to do, right? Um, that kind of thing, right? So at every level, you are QCing the product, right? Even if the product's not major, you're QCing the product, you're QCing the design, you're QCing, the operations, you're QCing the production, you're QCing the marketing. All this stuff is getting looked at so that tweaks can be made immediately on the spots, or at least I can see them coming and I can fix them. Okay. But the whole notion is that I don't want to have any mistakes. Okay. I don't want to have any mistakes, especially nowadays with a lot of things being automated, right? Previously, we would account for human error as part of the, 10% defect or whatever the case may be in quality control, right? Nowadays, quality control is a very, specific science, right? Because we have automation, we have robots, we have, you know, algorithms, we have all these systems that do the stuff for us and we don't do it ourselves. And so our expectation is that, well, since it's a computer or since it's a machine doing it, the quality is going to be very specific and it's going to be exactly how we set it, right? The problem is that, it depends how you set it, right? So then it still goes back to the human, right? Data, what did they say? Garbage in, garbage out. Okay. And so what I put into the system, what I put into, the process via the computer or via an automated system, right, will determine what I get out of it. Okay. Because that system and that automation will do it exactly the way I said, right, without questioning or debate, right? And this is where we get into trying to figure out artificial intelligence and all this other stuff, right? We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but you know, um, understanding that you know quality control in this day and age is something that it's not taken lightly, and probably one of the places where you can build um, a really good core competency as far as an organization go, right? Because that's something that you can probably control to a fairly high degree. Okay, the quality is something you can control to a fairly high degree, as long as you impart that on the people that are working, in your organization. Say, hey, we're all about quality, right? And again, when I worked for Toyota, it was all about the quality, right? We don't care, right? And even the logo of Toyota, if you look at it closely, it's two rings, two or three rings that have come together to make that symbol that Toyota uses, right? But one of the rings, it's there three tenets of Toyota, right? One of the tenets is quality, right? They believe in it so much that they put it in the logo of the car, right? So when you get when you get your car and you look at the Toyota logo that's on the car, one of the rings represents quality. Okay. And so they are, very much about, providing a quality product and making sure that, again, that, that's their most important thing, quality. Right. But the way they do that, right, is they are very, very, very meticulous and very stringent and very hard on their suppliers. Okay, because as I said, garbage in, garbage out. If I have poor or cheap products or material, that's probably going to um, contribute to a poor design and design defects, and then in turn will lead to the system failing or the product not doing what it's supposed to do, right? And so you have to make sure the products or the supplies that you're getting from your suppliers meet the specifications that you set forth, right? Even in something as simple as I need a quarter-inch screw, right? I need a quarter-inch screw, and the screw is not a quarter inch, but it's a little bit above. It's 0.2254, right? That makes a difference because now that screw, that bolt cannot fit into the hole that I've made, right? In all the cars, right? All the cars have a specific, hole that's made for that screw because it bolts I don't know, bolts the chassis or the struts or the suspension rods or whatever the case may be. And now I can't because now it only goes half in or won't go in at all, that kind of thing, right? And so it's important that the suppliers also have a high quality, high standard of quality. Okay. And so in order to make sure that, suppliers provide high quality products, we have, certifications, right? We have certifications for different industries, and you may have seen them before. They're ISOs and ISO 9000, ISO 14000, ISO 6000, that kind of thing. Okay, all right. So we'll get into that a little bit later. All right. So now the cost of quality, right? So control costs and failure costs, right? And so we're always looking to try to prevent, um, you know, poor quality, right? And again, as I said before, it goes into training. We talk about the field service, right? And I said, depending on the training and exposure that particular person gets, will translate into how competent they are, right? So in order for me to prevent, poor quality, I need to train my people, right? I need to train folks and expose them to different scenarios, different situations that may occur based on the product, right? Manage my data, right? The information I'm getting, right? Because that's important. Those are statistics. I can take the data and turn that to information, and that from information I can analyze that, and that will give me some result in which maybe I can infer certain things. Okay, and that's kind of how you really want to approach that, right? And then planning, right? You want to make sure you have a plan and kind of a guide or a way ahead as to how you're going to approach certain things, right? Appraisal, right? Inspecting, right, your goods and your services, or inspecting the materials that come in and that kind of thing, right? This is a really critical thing when we talk about it. And a lot of people don't think about it. Seafood, right? Fish. There's a very stringent quality control process for fish, right? Fish have to meet a certain timeline, they have to look a certain way, they smell a certain way, feel a certain way, all right? And if the fish is not like the way it's supposed to be, then me as a business owner can turn the fish away and say, no, this fish is not, it's not up to standards, not quality. I'm not going to accept this order, send it back. I want my money back also, right? Or I want a credit or something, whatever the case may be, however they do it, right? So the appraisal aspect is important, because if praise it, if you don't look at your materials prior to accepting them, then you just accept them on the fact that, hey, it's coming from the manufacturer, and then I trust them, and it is what it is, and I get it, and then it's like, oh, this is trash. Once you accept it, there's nothing you can do with it. You've accepted it the way it is. So it's important that you take a look at it and appraise it and evaluate it prior to acceptance. Okay. Failure costs, of course, you got internal failure and external failure, right? So internal failure, basically, you have to kill the whole, pretty much the whole project or the whole thing. You got to rework it, right? And then all that leads to is more time, right? Or we say downtime, okay? Now we've extended the timeline from a week to 2 weeks. This is a major problem or a point of contention. All of them are a point of contention when we talk about construction. Construction is probably one of the best examples of quality control, and how it can go wrong, right? Where you have a timeline of 6 months that turns to 8 months because of a few, material issues, a few quality control issues, because you really can't take any chances, um, with those kind of things, right? Things that are going to be used by humans, and people are going to live in them, or that kind of thing, or use them on a day-to-day basis. You have to make sure that they're built to a certain standard, right? A high quality standard, because you don't want the building to collapse on people. And so if you have an internal failure, basically you have to kind of scrap the whole thing, right? If the foundation is poured incorrectly, right, and it gets checked out, and it's like, hey, this foundation has got an incline, it slopes here, then it dips here, and it's soft here, okay, or the ground itself is not, suitable to build on, right? And you'll see that, this, you may wonder why certain areas are zoned the way they're zoned, because that particular area of land may not be able to sustain a 30 floor building, right? But it can sustain a home, right? It may not be able to sustain anything heavy, but it can sustain, something small, where if we lay down the foundation, as a base, and then we build up from the foundation, but we reinforce the foundation with maybe, steel rods or pillars or something that goes deeper into the ground, and we get down to really a solid foundation for the foundation, right? That works. So this is kind of how, if you see offshore oil drills, that kind of thing, anything you see out in the water, a lot of times, if you go into the water and you really examine those things are reinforced by huge steel rods that are going down into the bottom of the ocean floor, right, in some form or fashion, or they have a way in which that they're anchoring it to a foundation that's anchored to the floor, or the bed of the ocean, right, or the bed of the water, whatever body of water it is, right. But at the same time, right, if you have internal failure, you got to chuck the whole thing. You got to rework it, and then that leads to downtime. All right, external failure, You can, of course, if you have a warranty, right, you can return it or you can complain, right? One of three things if you're not the actual, builder or manufacturer. As a customer, these are only recourse that we have. We can, you know, execute the warranty. We could return it, right? We can definitely complain, but the more complaints you have, right, from an organizational standpoint, the worse it is because now I have a whole bunch of people, especially in this day and age where you have Yelp, where people can complain and everyone can see what the complaints about, that would turn people away, right? For me personally, if I see, a couple bad reviews and they are, as far as like say a restaurant or something, and it says, it has a couple bad reviews, I'll look at the reviews and see what the content is. But if the content is related to the product or the service that they're offering, as far as, hey, um, the food was bad or the service was horrible, then I'm not going to, I probably won't go, right? But if it's something to where, oh well, there was a long line, there was a long wait, but it was a great experience. The food was great, it was well worth it, right? That kind of complaint is not so much a big deal to me because then that tells me like, hey, a lot of people are patronizing the institution or patronizing the restaurant, and I want to go. Just a long wait, right? And you have to expect that with a lot of things that are good and of high quality because everybody wants to go, right? And so again, complaints are not what we want as a company. We want to make sure that people are happy with the things that they're getting. Okay, so cost of quality trade-offs. All right, so basically, all this is saying is that, hey, if as this increases, right? Excuse me, I'm sorry. All right, cost unit is going up, right? The prevention and appraisal costs also go up, right? When it's defective, 100% good. Hey, the cost of unit again, external failure costs, right? Right here, right along the side with prevention and appraisal cost. So guess what? It's probably better just to do prevention and appraisal, vice, right? Getting internal and external failure costs, right? You don't want that, right? But you can see they're kind of the same, all right? 100% defective, all right? The cost, the prevention appraisal costs are low, right? Because you probably haven't done anything, right? But here, 100% good, it's low, right? Okay, it's still low, right? But increases as the cost of the unit also increases. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Deming. Deming is kind of like the father of manufacturing and the the god or the godfather of all management, all things management. Okay. And so he has his 14 management principles that you'll get in another class if you haven't gotten it already. But Deming is a name that you should be really familiar with from a DBA standpoint or from a business standpoint, I should say, right? And one of his things was that, hey, you don't want to sacrifice the quality for short-term profit, which a lot of companies do. They're more interested in getting the money right away, vice, taking their time and putting an effort into making sure the quality is sufficient, and then in the long term making their money. All right. He's very big proponent on continuous improvement, which again, which I mentioned is, hey, always be looking to get better, right? Always be looking to get better. Personally, professionally, academic, it doesn't matter. From an organizational standpoint, they always are looking to get better. This is why, again, we have new models coming out all the time, right? How can I improve upon this product? That's all I'm concerned about. I want to improve upon the product. And so if I can improve upon the product, I'm always in a state of getting better. Okay. Always in a state of getting better. And that's not to say that, if I have a product and it's really good and I try to improve it, that I'm necessarily going to change it, based on that improvement. I may wait. I may say, you know what, it's doing well. The product, we don't need to implement that improvement just yet, right? We don't need to make that quality change just yet. Or some quality changes are made, but they turn out not to be that great, right? Again, if we think about Apple and some of the changes they made to their phone, a lot of people weren't necessarily happy with the changes that they made, right? As far as getting rid of the headphone jacks, all right, or having the home button not there and that kind of thing, right? Or having face recognition now and that kind of thing, or having biometrics. That might have been a good improvement. But again, just because you have an improvement doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that you need to employ, right? You can wait and employ later on down the line. It may be more beneficial, right? Because especially if you have a product that's doing well the way it is, and you have something that you can make better, and it can be used as a product, good or service later on down the line as another line of business, a line of revenue, then you do that, right? Then you have the wheel, right? Plan, do, check, act, right? You want to plan, okay? All right. You want to do the action, you want to check it or evaluate it, right? And then you want to act on those particular, discrepancies that you find again to make the product better. Okay. But this is the whole cycle all in kind of one, you know, um, one, quick snapshot. Okay. Again, consumer needs, going to design it the way I need to design it. I need to build it. Okay, and once I build it, I need to check it, make sure it's good, and then boom, send it back out and see what the customer thinks. Customer gives me feedback, start the loop all over again. Okay. Joseph Juran is another name that you should be familiar with, and he was really about quality control methods and that kind of thing. I don't know a lot about Juran as much as I do about Deming. Juran's not a really he's mentioned, but he's not really high profile. All right. But apparently he had himself a good quality control as far as his life goes. He lived to 104, so he did all right. Okay. But he believed that quality consisted of three things, right? Planning, control, and improvement. All right. Again, it's the same thing being said in a different way. Okay. We got to plan, we got to control the process, and we have to add improvements or make improvements. All right. And it's start over again. Okay. And then really solving the few vital problems about when it comes to quality, because a lot of times it really just is one or two issues about the quality of the product, and once those are tweaked, everything kind of pans out just fine. All right, here we're talking about the ISO standards. Excuse me. And so the ISO standards are basic guidelines for, like I said, designing, manufacturing, selling, and servicing products. They're just a set of rules, and basically, hey, there's a checklist, and you need to go down the checklist. And as long as you meet the checklist, you're certified as an ISO 9000, ISO 6000, ISO 14000. So the ISO, I can't remember what ISO stands for, International Standardization Organization, something like that, or Industrial Standardization Organization. But each number represents an industry. Okay, so 9000 is for manufacturing, I believe. I think 14,000. Oh, it says here airports can be ISO 9000, hotels can be ISO 9000. So different bunch of categories that could be ISO certified. But once you get the certification, this is basically the pinnacle of quality control. Right? If you are ISO certified, then you've met the most stringent, rigorous requirements when it comes to quality control, and your product is really put in a different category. Your product, service, process, whatever it is that's certified, is put in a different category. So this is a very high distinction. ISO 14000 is the environment, right? Just making sure that all the environmental aspects are being met. So again, when we go back to maybe construction or people that or organizations that are doing things outside, like drilling, construction, farming, those kind of things, because now we're concerned about the environment and the impact that those things are going to have on the environment, right? And so there's a different standard that they have to adhere to get the ISO 14000 or ISO 9000, whatever the case may be. Keep in mind that you don't have to have the certification, right? It's one of those things that companies strive for. It takes a little while, all right? And you don't have to have it to, do business. And just because you don't have it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a high level of quality, all right? It's just that if you do have it, it's one of those public, acknowledgments of like, hey, this company is ISO certified. They met the highest stringent standards. And so, you know, whatever you're getting from them is quality product, right? And that's just, you know, a good to know, right? ISO 26000, social responsibility. That's a new one on me. I could even tell you what that really entails. I mean, I see social responsibility, but I don't know how they define that or how they formulate that. Risk management, again, I knew that existed, but I'm not very familiar with that aspect of the ISO series. But again, all those things, right? All the ISOs are really, you know, it's almost like a doctor who's board certified, right? There's a lot of doctors out there who are good doctors, but they're not board certified. When you become board certified, you move up another level as a doctor, right? Because now you're saying, hey, I've been through a series of evaluations, I've been through a series of practical applications. I've done a level of study above and beyond what is required of me. And so I'm not a considered an expert of experts within this particular, you know, realm of medicine, right? Be pediatric. You'll find that a lot of plastic surgeons are, you know, board certified. They're board certified in certain things, right? Rhinoplasty or, you know, implants or that kind of thing, right? Or reconstructive surgery, right? They're board certified. And if you can at all times, you should always find a doctor that's board certified. You want a doctor that is specifically, that's their thing. If you have a foot injury, I would like to have a board certified podiatrist, right? Or board certified, whatever, right? Again, that's not to say that the doctor is bad because it takes a long time to be board certified. But when you get it, it elevates you to another level, right? I'm not really sure about this award. Let's see here. Promote better quality management. I've never heard of this award, so um, definitely take a look at it. Here's some of the criteria that need to be adhered to. All right. So why do some improvements fail, right? A lot of times it's about, you know, the employee, all right, and not the employee, the people, I should say that, because I don't want to put on the employee. It's about the people and the culture of the organization, all right, and how important quality is, all right. The other thing is that um, money money is always at the core of it all, right? How much money is it going to cost me um, to do, you know, to have, you know, the quality that I want, right? If you take it and get an opportunity and look at the Pinto case, this is a very old case from the 1960s, and how Ford, I think it's Ford that made the Pinto, how Ford decided that they were going to not invest in a minor quality control change on the Pinto because it would cost them too much money overall, and they decided that the cost of the improvement will be more than the cost of a lawsuit if this particular thing failed, right? And so basically, the Pinto, the way it was built, the fuel tank was in a position as to where if the Pinto got into an accident, the fuel tank would explode, right? And it happened numerous times. And so Ford or whoever made the Pinto ended up in all these lawsuits. But once they got into the lawsuit, they realized that the change that Pinto needed to make, or the change that the car needed, was literally a 20 cents change, right? It would have cost them 20 cents per car to make the change. And that would have avoided the whole problem, but they decided not to, right? Very interesting case. You can look it up on YouTube. Um, Very interesting, and just it kind of brings in the human dynamic of it, the financial dynamic of it, just the societal, you know, dynamic as far as like what was socially acceptable back then, some of the quality control, you know, nuances that were going on that in that time frame. So it's a very interesting case that kind of wraps up why some improvements fail. Okay. All right. So that's all I got for tonight. Any questions? Any questions at all? No, everybody's been pretty quiet. I've seen, I think there's Debbie. Any questions, Debbie?
No.
No, okay, good. All right. Wayne there, Moat. Hopefully they're there, but Moat, Wayne,
No,
no
no
questions.
questions.
Okay, good. All right. So Moat, no questions. Moat, you there? Moat, you there? No, no Moat. All right. Make sure you get your work in. I graded the title justifications. I liked everybody's titles and their topic. So I'm looking forward to reading those papers. I think it'll be interesting. If you didn't get a 20 or perfect score, it probably in the format of some of the things you put down. For the most objective that I could understand and what the paper was going to be about. So looking forward to it. All right. Aside from that, I don't have anything else. And if you don't have any questions, I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.